want to talk about snipers on the roof at a Royal Bank of Canada annual general meeting just this week in 2023. I want to talk about why RBC had the threat of violence against Indigenous and Black people at the Royal Bank of Canada, racist Bank of Canada's annual general meeting. This doesn't make sense to a lot of people. It seems like a fiction. This is a peaceful country. We solve things with good hearts and with talking, except we're seeing more and more that no, we don't do that. We see more and more that Canada is a colonial state, and we see Canada for what it is. And the Royal Bank of Canada has been the racist Bank of Canada since 1864, when they first funded the colonial violence and the state, and when they first kept Indigenous and Black people out of the room. They funded genocide. RBC has been funding genocide since its foundation by white, colonial, patriarchal men. And RBC, its executives, are scared, and the government of Canada is scared. Jossie Alec, we need to listen to her. They are scared. It doesn't make sense to us that they'd be scared of a group of peaceful people who are singing and drumming and conducting ceremony and just want to talk. And just want to talk about reparations and about land back and about climate justice for all of us here on this planet. But the reason RBC is so scared is because they know that what they are doing today is wrong. They know that what happened in the past is wrong, and they know that what they are funding, their fossil fuel projects that violate Indigenous rights and Black people's rights and BIPOC rights, over and over and over again, they put these projects through the most marginalized communities, through the most oppressed communities. And this is the government of Canada. This is the racist Bank of Canada. And they know it's wrong. That's why they've put millions into greenwashing and really nice words about Indigenous reconciliation. But they know if someone had done that to them, if a state had done this to those in power at RBC executive, if someone stole their children to steal the land, they would want violence, and they would arrive with terror, and they would not arrive with peace in their hearts. They would arrive with the colonial mindset of violence and terror and revenge. And that is a patriarchal and colonial way of being. If those snipers on the roof, they make sure that the Indigenous and Black delegation there know that the RCMP and the RBC are willing to do violence against them again and again and again and again to get what the racist bank and the colonial government of Canada want, and that is land and profit at the expense of everything else, at the expense of all life on earth, at the expense of Indigenous rights, at the expense of Indigenous people reclaiming their culture and being able to finally heal. Mother. I've listened to Chief Namax and Chief Was. I've listened to Slato. And they call for peace, and they call for peaceful actions, and they call for our voices to be raised, and they call for us to speak truth. But they would have every right to defend themselves with the force necessary to get these colonizers and these projects off their lands that are already destroying their mother, destroying our mother. They are watching their mother be raped in front of them. We see the effects of the rape of our mother. The impacts are already being felt by women and children in that community, and the impacts will continue. We know that within 50 years that pipeline will leak into the river that's currently clean, and there will be more damage and destruction, and they will be further removed from their ability to live with the land and to depend on Mother Earth, and they will be further sucked into this matrix of money. And they are trying to get free of the matrix, and they are trying to do it peacefully. But in an abusive relationship, you can talk and ask for someone to listen to you, to hear the ways that they are hurting you. You have your voice, you speak up. You say, you do this, it hurts me. You say, these are the impacts of your behavior. Maybe they give you some pretty words and promises. Maybe they even say sorry. That's all lovely. But if the next time you turn to them, they come back at you with anger and defensiveness and protectionism of what they consider to be theirs at the expense of you, if they won't return what they've stolen from you, that's abusive. That is not a good relationship. That is not a working relationship. That is a violent, dominant relationship. And in an abusive relationship, the person who has repeatedly spoken assertively about the harms being done to them, and a person who has repeatedly asked for change, and a person who has proven that what the abuser is doing violates basic human ethics, violates the law, violates the relationship. That person who is being abused has the right to stand up for themselves and to use whatever force is necessary to get the abuse to stop. Now, right now, the Wet'suwet'en are being peaceful, and mothers don't want war. We don't want violence. We want peace for us and our children. But we are not free until we are all free. And the Wet'suwet'en are not free. And they would have every right to rise up right now for all of the arrests and the murders of their people, for all of the criminalization and the marginalization, for all of the children in graveyards, in residential schools, for all of the children forcibly removed from their mothers. And I am grateful for this opportunity that the Indigenous people are giving the governments and those in power to do the right thing. We need all of us standing together to make this happen in a peaceful way. If there are enough of us that stand with the Wet'suwet'en, if there are enough of us that stand up for Indigenous rights all over Turtle Island, there has to be enough of us. We need every single voice. We need everybody who cares. We need everybody. Everybody who does not make $15 million a year. RBC is actively destroying this planet for our children and for us, like it's going to happen in our lifetimes, okay? But there is hope. There is hope if we work together. There is hope if we focus our efforts on two things. Really, it's only two things. All the other issues fall under these two things. Indigenous rights, electoral reform. Okay, put that in a box up here. Indigenous rights, electoral reform. Everything else falls into place. If you have proportional representation, if you have a more matriarchal system where power is shared, and if you center Indigenous rights and Indigenous voices about what needs to be done for the land and how it needs to be done and what needs to be done for people, we can address all of the other problems.